Yeah, I think we've got enough more in here. So.
We have 5.
Yeah, so we're good to go, right?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, you want to start recording?
Recording in progress.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is January 10th, 2024 Planning Board. Happy New Year, everyone. Pam, do you want to start with attendance?
Yes, Michael Gore,
Here.
Austin Groner, absent. Robert Romer,
Here.
Michael Lau,
Here.
Eric Nyland,
Here.
James Barr.
Here.
Everyone's present with the exception of Austin Groner.
First item on the agenda is Century Mill Estates update. So the last time we talked, there were some questions about the estimate provided from Niche Engineering, and we sort of discussed at the time, you know, a lot of the caveats to that. But one thing in particular was a, you know, more than $200,000 cost for what they listed is basically work required to put magnetic tape on the water supply. So Pam looked into that, and we talked with DPW and got some better information about this. So to sort of step back, the reason that Niche put this line item on there is because we don't have as-built plans for the water supply system. And having those plans, which would show things like connections and shutoffs and backflow protection and all those sorts of things, that's required for part of road acceptance because the water supply is intermingled with the roads. So we don't have those as-built plans. So Niche put basically a worst case estimate for if someone had to go out and locate all those pipes by digging them up to find them. Okay. We don't think that would be what would need to happen. So first off, you know, the as-built plans may exist. I kind of think they don't because they were never filed with Mass DEP, and we never saw anything. So they probably don't exist. So, you know, we talked to our DPW and said there are other ways of mapping out that sort of infrastructure that could include ground penetrating radar, and even the fact that the magnetic tape might be on there. So that's really what that line item came from. So I think we can, you know, pretty much assume that that's not a cost that we would expect to be required. But it does bring up the point of how important the as-builts are to this project. Those are a 100% requirement for the town to consider road acceptance. So, you know, on that estimate, there is, you know, there should be some line item for what it costs to get the as-builts. I don't know what that number is. As far as Niche goes, we don't have any other money to pay them to do any other investigation or get any other detail on what that could potentially cost. So other than that, the estimate and kind of like I said in the last meeting, the purpose of this estimate was only if the residents wanted to petition the town for a betterment. In that case, this estimate would be used as a way to allocate money at town meeting. Okay, it doesn't represent what the final cost of the construction would be. It doesn't represent, you know, everything that's in it. It is, we asked Niche to provide a worst case estimate just because of how town budgets work, right? You need to go to town meeting, you need to request, allocate all the money that you need for a project. Okay, you can't underfund it. So that's really where that estimate came from. as part of this work, Pam reached out to Mass DEP and found that there were a number of violations with the water system. So the residents should definitely be concerned about that. From that list of violations, I think one of my biggest concerns was the capitalization cost. That money is supposed to be held in reserve for emergency repairs and things like that of the water system. I mean, certainly if the town were to take over the road, again, the town will not take over the water infrastructure. That will still be owned by presumably Andy or the residents. So it's important that to understand the mingling of those two systems, that if something happened on the water system that caused a leak, that caved in part of a road, that's the responsibility of the water system. So not having that capitalized is definitely concerning. But all that being said, I mean, we're still faced with the three options that I laid out at the last meeting, where number one, that the roads remain private. Number two is that the homeowners can hire their own contractor at a much lower cost than the town can. Again, the town has to pay prevailing wage. The niche estimate includes, a 30% contingency, allocations for inflation, because that's how the town needs to borrow money. And the third option is the residents can petition the town, specifically the select board, for a betterment. So Pam, have I kind of covered everything there? Hope you're muted, Pam.
Sorry, I always do that. I also just wanted to mention that we did put the developer on notice of all the items and demand a response from him. It is ultimately his responsibility, and I know that he's been in default of a lot of the required items. But all the punch list items and the peer review items for the road layout and as-built condition plans were sent to him kind of as a cohesive list. And we requested that he respond to that by January 30th. And we sent that itemized list through registered mail.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions about what I discussed?
So, hey, Mike, it's John Ballowitz from 21 Center Circle. Thanks for the update. I have a few points and questions, I guess. One is that it seems like the town has fully decided not to take any responsibility of trying to recoup any funds from Andy. We had originally talked about the town through land grant. I don't know what the term is, but trying to take some of his lots, reselling them on the road. That's something that you were looking into a while back. I even know that back in 2019, the selectmen, when they were interviewed by the Worcester Telegram, was saying that they were concerned that the developer has basically walked on the project, and that they were concerned about that and wanted to take a number of lots into ownership for that protection. So the town at that point was taking ownership for protecting the residents at that time, because the bond wasn't going to be enough. Town had already become, aware that the bond was not going to cover it. So they were going to take ownership and take some responsibility for the position we're in. And now it seems like the town is completely saying it's on the residents. And so what I would say first off is, I think the town really has to think hard about the position they helped get us into. I understand we had some risking in buying in this development ourselves, but I think the town takes some culpability, and to step back and say it's all on the residents right now, I don't think is entirely fair. So I'd like that to be kind of rediscussed, because even back then, even the select board were the ones saying we need to take some land from Andy to assure ourselves that he's going to do his job as a protection. And that's been taken off the table, and I don't know why. That's my first point. And if that's not considered, I still believe the DPW director way overstepped his review in the project. And if there is if in the end, the town is not going to take any responsibility and it's on the homeowners, that report and that number, or whether it's 800,000 or $1 million is way inflated, in my opinion. We were down to very minimal things that needed to be done. And I think if it were reasonable, I think the town and the neighbors would be open to trying to do a reasonable amount of effort to do that. And so again, I don't know what that reasonable number would be, but I would consider those two things. One is the town to relook at their culpability here and their ownership of the position we're in. And two is if they don't take any responsibility, I mean, there are some paths that the residents can take to try to force that. But barring that, I think the DPW report really needs to be reviewed. And I know you've been against that, but I really think that report.
Let me address the DPW report first. So in all this time, I think that report has been available since the summertime. No one has once sent a single item on that report that they feel is unreasonable. Okay, the DPW director is a professional that this town has hired to manage, all of the public infrastructure in this town. So I'm not really sure why you're questioning it on one hand, like when you don't have specific examples of things. He went by, subdivision bylaws, things that were just common sense. It was an incredibly thorough report. So if there's a specific thing in the report, and I don't want to go through that now, but you can send those to us and we can get clarification on them. But I mean, the report is what it is. Okay.
Understood. And I think we do have some construction expertise in our neighborhood. We're going to do that and try to do that before this meeting. And we were waiting for the response from our meeting 3 months ago when you were reviewing it. So we'll get to that.
You've had the DPW report since the summer. There's no surprise there.
No, I disagree. There's tons of stuff, Michael.
Mike, it's Vince LaRosa.
Come on.
I want to just go on the record real quick. I apologize. That's on us because if we didn't go line by line, what was stated at a previous, at least 2 meetings though, was that every item that wasn't on there in 2019 that showed up this time around was a surprise and we were taking up issue with. So it was every single item minus those that were on the 2019. I didn't know we had to go line by line, but I want to go on record as saying we were shocked with every item that was, surprising.
I've gone through this in previous meetings. Okay, in 2019, there was never a comprehensive inspection done by DPW, which is one of the steps required for road acceptance. Okay, so in 2019, that did not happen. That report was mostly an administrative list of items that needed to be done. It was never a comprehensive report done by the DPW. This summer was the first time that we have that report. So I'm sorry if that's a shock to everyone that inspection has been done.
I think it's a shock to yourself and this group. Members of the planning board agreed that the town is moving the goalpost. This is Kai Trong at 71 Mill Pond Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think if the issue is that the town is looking for a corrective version that represent what the Century correct to characterize it as we've had all this time, I would invite anyone, my neighbors, members of the planning board, to go back to listen to Zoom meeting recordings from a year ago. You said yourself, Michael, that you did not expect very much to come out of the review. So I would say $1 million is a huge surprise.
And again,
that's
stop.
Can we stop
using the $1 million number?
You can go
please?
look, please. Let me finish, please. I invite anyone to go look through the Zoom meeting, the transcripts, and listen to these meetings from a year ago, and be honest and say, is this number what anybody expected? And so I would also offer that the DPW, I agree with John Balowitz completely, that's really not the right, well, there's open interpretations of how you apply. It's not exact science. Clearly, the director of DPW looked at the bylaws and applied judgment. And I think that's what we're quarreling with. So if what you're saying is, Michael, is that you just want us to tell you what we think the right number or what right things are, we could do that. But please don't say we had all this time.
I
because
don't
it
think you are
took you,
qualified to do that.
it took you 9 months to get this report. And we asked for the report over the summer, and you actually said you'll give it to us when you're good and ready. So don't play that game with us now, please. You've been the chairman on this committee for years. You know we did not just show up last year with this request. We pay almost $1 million a year in property taxes. We've been in good faith trying to work with the town and your process to get our roads accepted. Thank you.
And this is John Ballots again. I think that the frustration is that the town was here to protect us as well as the rest of the people in the town. The town had oversight of this project every step of the way. Niche Engineering and the previous DPW had complete oversight for the development of the roads, for the implementation of the roads, installation of the roads, for the top coating of the roads. They were present for every single step of the way. And for inspections, for review, to tell Andy he's doing something wrong, to remediate something. And then when we're at the end of the project, we know the as-bills have to be done and they have to be reviewed, and to turn around and say, again, you don't want to save $1 million, but that was the number last meeting, was $1 million minus $200,000 for this magnetic tape. So to say that the town had complete oversight, had a bonded road to protect the neighborhood, and then in the last part of the process where we get the as-bills in for final review to see what needs to be done to get the roads in shape for acceptance, there's an $800,000 to $1 million price tag. That, to me, is culpability on the town as well as the builder. I mean, we're here as residents who bought in the neighborhood, trusting the builder and the town, or to go deep into our purses to pay out of pocket. I just think it's unfair.
Through the chair, if I can, there's still one outstanding question John had related to the selling of the lots and using the revenue to complete work within the subdivision. I did speak to the town administrator about this option, and he did consult with counsel and the town accountant, and it's not legally permissible to utilize the sale of tax title property for a specific purpose like that. So that was not found to be an option, though it was something that was discussed. It wasn't legally permissible.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Other members of the board, would you like to weigh in on where we stand?
Has the Board of Health been included or asked about the situation all?
They have no jurisdiction over the water supply. It's strictly DEP. Is that what you're
DEP then?
referring to, the water
Yeah,
supply
sorry.
issue?
DEP then, sorry. Have they weighed in?
They have weighed in, and they're expecting to move forward with enforcement in 2024 if they don't receive the requested information.
Pam, do you know what that information is?
It's a letter that was distributed to the board. I distributed it to a few of the residents within the subdivision. It lists a few deficiencies, a few violations, and some requests for additional information.
What about as-bills?
They didn't require, I did ask about that specifically. They have as-built for the easement areas and the wellheads, and they didn't require as-built for the roadway, water main in the roadway.
I guess the question I would ask about that, and I appreciate the DEP's oversight. They did the same thing 10 years ago. They fined Andy for being deficient and not following his requirements for a public water supply, never collected, and then just stopped responding to him and left it for years. That's how it was set up when it went to the state. When Andy went to try to get regulated, DEP gave their report again about his violations, but never enforced it. I responded to Susan Connors, and And Robert Boswick, I think, was the director at the time. I don't know if all these people are the same people, about my concerns on why they're not enforcing it. And basically the answer is we don't know what to do. So if you're relying on DEP having any meat to the bone of their enforcement, I highly doubt it unless they're going to do something different. Because the same report, if you look back historically, Pam, they had the similar report over 10 years ago. And never find them. They find them, then
Pam, do we know anything about the inspections that have occurred in the past by the DEP under previous administration?
I asked about them, and I don't really like speaking on behalf of DEP, but I was informed that they don't inspect installation. They just approve the design plans and then sign off once the system's complete.
Is that considered a private utility, those water lines running across the public road?
Yes. Well, I don't know if
Are
it's
there
considered a public utility. It's a private water system.
Can private utilities run across public easements?
Well-
Eventually when the road does get accepted without
would need
there being
easements for it.
easements given?
Easements is one of the requirements for this, for road acceptance.
So
That's why it's so vital to have the set of as-built and the gate valves and
So
the information for the water system when we accept the roadway.
Pam, with the sign off on, you said that, I know you don't want to speak on behalf of the DEP, but when do you know if when they have to sign off on the design plans, that having the as-built is a part of that sign off?
When they sign off for the design plans to approve be different. Once you get into the field and conduct installation, and that was part of the DEP request of additional information, the letter that they issued, I think in 2021. They wanted the gate valve information and some additional info as well, so they've also requested that information. They let the water system be activated prior to receipt of that, and I don't know if that's typical or not. I can't really speak to that.
Pam, with the inspections that they performed, on-site inspections for excavation and burial, or what were they?
I mean, it's not like the water system is kind of separate from this, right? And what DEP did or didn't do. I mean, that was DEP. That wasn't the town. It wasn't us.
No, Mike, I meant generally. Anything that the town was responsible for, did they witness installations? And if so, is there paperwork associated with that?
Yeah, I've isolated all the inspection reports, which references the installation of the water line, but there are no pictures or specific details. It really just says water line was installed from station 2.0 to 2.5, for example. There's not a lot of detail to it.
What about road work?
In terms of, yeah, there's inspection reports for road work, but what are you referring to?
Well, I mean, subsurface, primary, secondary pavement.
There's some picture, there's definitely, this goes over years and years of inspections
Oh,
too,
I'll
so there's
bet.
probably 10 years of inspection reports to go through. I did find some pictures with the base coat depth and reports on material as well as the top coats. And there's photos to collaborate the depths and ensure that they meet the subdivision control regulations.
But as you pointed out, this is over a 10-year period. And in some cases, what we're dealing with is a road that was built, maybe as long as 10 years ago and has weathered and has weathered over a 10-year period. And we're looking for acceptance. But I think it's worthy. It'd be good to go back and take a look at that and see what was available then, what the town agreed to, and in what context they agreed. It's a lot of digging, but I think it would be.
By that, Bob.
I'm sorry?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, what you're looking for there.
Well, if a section of road was approved as it was being installed, what does that mean? At the time that it was installed, it's 10 years later and it may not be in that condition, but was it ever approved by the town?
So I also want to point out something to maybe people know this, maybe people don't. The final step in road acceptance is for it to be approved by the voters at town meeting. Okay, so we can all, as a board, as a DPW, whatever, we can all agree to whatever we want. Okay, but if the town doesn't vote in favor for it at the meeting, the road doesn't get accepted. So I've said this before, that there is no legal obligation for the town to accept the road. All right, and if you want the road to be accepted, you want the road to be in the best shape possible before you go to town meeting. Okay, if residents hear that, oh, well, you know what, the water system is undercapitalized and we don't know where the shutoffs are and there's all these other ticking time bombs waiting to go off, they're not going to approve the road. Okay, so I want everyone to be clear about that the final step in this is for the town to vote on it. So we can try to, you can try to say, oh, what happened 10 years ago or whatever. The point is, we are where we are today. The DPW report is, as far as I'm concerned, the definitive amount of work that needs to be done left on the subdivision. I would recommend that the residents, I mean, if we think Andy has fully walked away and there's no other way of extracting money from him, then I would say the residents should talk to a construction company and get their own estimate based on the DPW report. Okay, and that estimate will not be $800,000. Okay, again, we have to do that for town budgeting reasons. Like, that's how the town has to allocate money. Okay, you guys could do it for way cheaper. So that is what I think you should do. I mean, you don't need to agree to anything. You could, engage with one or two construction companies and get some estimates. That's where I would recommend that your next steps would be. Okay. Otherwise, if you wanted to go with the betterment process, again, that's done through the select board. Okay, so that's actually never even happened in this town before. We've never done a betterment. The town would actually have to pass a bylaw in order to allow the select board to even do something like that. So there's other issues with that. But I mean, we can argue this, as much as we want, but this is where we stand as far as I'm concerned.
So Mike, the two paths forward are to go with the betterment, but that basically requires that we go with the current estimate that we have. That was based on the DPW report that was quantified. A 30% contingency was put on it, and it used prevailing wages as the basis for the estimate, or have a private firm come in, take a look at the situation, find out what it would take to do what is necessary, perhaps by the DPW report, perhaps by, to some degree, their own assessment, and then pay for that themselves at a substantially lower cost.
The town shouldn't be involved in any of the construction of it. They should say, hey, Mr. Developer, call us when you're done. If Andy's not around, that's not the town's problem. We're not in the construction business. It's private land.
And agreed. And the niche estimate, one of the other reasons that it's expensive is that includes construction oversight. Hiring someone to oversee that construction. The town will not do that.
I just also, Mike, if you don't mind, if I emphasize too, Pam Harding, that there's still the outstanding issue of who's going to maintain the water line and the capital accounts to support any leaks or things that may occur in the public way to ensure that repairs are capable of being conducted. So we wouldn't want to accept the roadway until those items are in place, because we do put public land at risk.
That question was asked to Andy Pendleton 12 years ago. when he initially proposed this project? And the answer was he was going to form a water association, because if the water line breaks, you can't just have some contractor out on public roads searching for private utilities. So he said there was going to be an association formed where the entity would be bonded to go into the public way and maintain the private utility. And that was in the minutes, I think 12 years ago, in the ZBA notes.
Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, it's Jake Foote from Century Mill Road.
Thank you.
So
Mike, it's,
has
Mr.
that
Rizzo.
been documented?
I believe if you go back into the zoning board of appeals notes when it was initially proposed, that question was posed to Andy. How can you run a private utility within the public way, and when it needs to be maintained or a water break repaired, how can you go in the middle of the town road and start excavating? Who's going to guarantee that the work is done properly?
So is that reflected in either the public water supply, in this case, private water district, or in the homeowners association agreements?
I don't know. I just know that the question was posed and Andy said that there would be an association formed where that would be worked out. There would have to be easements granted naturally to run a private utility across a public way.
I think using the term association is probably not appropriate. The association, as we're speaking, the homeowners association within the development has no ownership of the water supply. It's solely owned by Century Mill Estates, Andy Bendenson. He's tried to take it at public by filing with the Massachusetts, utilities, DPU. He's been denied because he couldn't associate the proper costs to build and run it, and has stopped pushing that. So it's remaining a private water supply owned by his company and has nothing to do with the association. We do pay towards it just like you would any water company if you didn't have a well. So that's that. There's no association. I don't know if we've ever.
I assume that means there's a separate entity for the water board.
All right.
Maybe separate from his own private company.
Yeah, they bill us quarterly, a Century Mill Water Company or whatever the entity is called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he owns it privately. Has nothing to do with the homeowners.
Yeah. No, understood.
So I guess the question then is there any documentation within that entity that assures that what we just described has happened, and that he does have easements and he will pay for, or that entity will pay for, anything that has to happen with regard to the roads?
So Bob, that is one of the things that the DEP report called out, was that the system doesn't seem to be capitalized to handle emergency maintenance like that. The easements would only be required when the town took over the road.
Right.
It's all their private property now. There's no easements.
No, I
needed
understand
at this
that.
point.
But ultimately, we're setting it up with he should be setting it up so that it works when the town accepts it. Right?
Correct.
So there should be plans for easements, and there should be an agreement about what'll happen if there's some sort of failure or need for investigation of the water piping within those easements.
Correct, and that's why it's critical to have an accurate as-built, so when the DPW director directs the crew to go out and do some maintenance work, you've got buried electric lines, I'm assuming, up there.
Mhm.
You're gonna have water lines. I mean, if you don't know what this stuff is, someone starts tearing up a live electric line, you could kill somebody. When you call DigSafe,
DigSafe handles that. Come on.
yeah, but DigSafe takes the as-built, and that's how they locate the underground utilities. That's critical, that you get an accurate as-built of underground utilities. I mean, without that, you're at sea in a fog without a map.
Mike, Vince Lorenzo, one more question, please. So there was a reference to a certified letter that was sent, and there was a request for, I believe, a January 30th or January 31st response. Was that letter from the DEP or was that from the planning board?
Planning board.
Okay, and are you able to share what you're asking for?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Pam, but just that the items addressed in the DPW report need to be remediated.
There's the DPW report, and then Niche Engineering did the peer review for the road layout plans and the as-built, and they had requests for additional information for things to be incorporated into the plans, and that was included in that request as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll take one more comment if anyone has something.
Mike, I actually have a question.
No,
so what are
go
the
ahead.
action? What are the action items on the for the buried water lines? Like, are we still like the as-built defined? Like, just clarify. Like, moving on the yeah. So what is our or clarify the path forward on the buried water lines? Like, taping them out. Like, where are we with that?
The town wouldn't require them to be taped out. The town requires as-built plans. And again, the reason Niche wrote it out the way they did was A, I don't think they knew whether or not we required taped lines. But B, because if they had to go and locate them somehow, and worst case, they had to dig them up to figure out where they were for the as-built. All that is strictly in service of getting the as-built plans for the water system.
Okay, so as long as it's in the plan, we're good. As long as the water lines, yeah, where they are, as long as they're in the as-built
plans for the water system.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So CME, sorry, I know these meetings never end the way you want them to. But at this point, so I think we've given the options for moving forward. You know, again, my recommendations personally would be you should get your own estimate from a construction company. That would give you a better sense of what the private cost would be for it. If you want to pursue the betterment option, you'll go before select board to do that. But other than that, I think we're done for now.
I have one more question. This is Kai Trong again. I think there is a legitimate disagreement about the contents of the DPW report. So from a process point of view, what is the right mechanism to handle that kind of disagreement? Because that must happen. It cannot be that whatever this DPW director says is the law. Clearly, it conflicts with the previous DPW director has stated. And so there must be a mechanism for us to work through that in a fair and transparent manner. So what is that? Because I don't hear you offering that as one of the options.
I'm going to say this one more time, and it's the last time. No prior DPW has gone out and done a thorough inspection of the system, of the development, the way the current director just did. That has not happened before. Okay, I've never seen any sort of comprehensive report in all of my years on the board. I've never seen that. Okay, so again, if you have a disagreement with something specific in that DPW report, send me an email, copy Pam. We will try to get your question answered. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So that's
Mike,
it for this.
I just want to back that up as well, because I've been on this for, I think, like 4 years as well, and it was about the pavement the last time, and this is something that's new, and so I'm backing Mike on this one. This is different from what has been done before. So that's my 2 cents.
Next item on the agenda is the MAP-C announcement of DLTA technical assistant. So Pam, I don't know what any of that means, so
It's
go
the
ahead.
the the planning association. Sorry, just letting people come and go. So the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission offers local technical assistance funding, which is basically they provide professional expertise through a grant application at no cost to the towns that participate in their region. They identify areas that they're prioritized for the grants awards, and every community has an option to apply. It is competitive, but it is a fairly simple application, and there's no cost to the community. I've always applied to these in a different region, to the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. They're free and they're usually fairly helpful. So I wanted to run it by the planning board. That's typically I would apply through a vote from the board authorizing application. This year they wanted to prioritize projects that advance the Metro Common 2050 and racial and social equity projects that involve multiple communities. They also gave quite a few examples or project ideas that would further local goals that would be eligible for consideration. And
That's
then
great.
I provided
Do you
the
have
list of,
anything in mind, Pam?
I was thinking stormwater and erosion control regulations or bylaws, some help with that. We've had quite a lot of issues, particularly on Meadow Road and areas with steep slopes where erosions occurred, and we don't have a lot of regulations or bylaws in place with teeth to help us enforce that unless they're in jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. So putting a bylaw in place would give us some more jurisdiction to help regulate construction areas that aren't necessarily under jurisdiction of another board or commission.
Yeah, that'd definitely be great. I mean, we sort of touched briefly, I mean, not to get into the Meadow Road stuff, but like what could have been done differently. So you think there was some sort of bylaw we could have that would have like prevented like what sort of bylaw, or maybe that's what you want them to.
Yeah, no, but a stormwater and erosion control bylaw, just to provide, so there were some plans that were required for erosion control and stormwater retention. I don't know how much calculations were involved in that, but we could put into the regulations pretty clear criteria for stormwater calcs and requirements. We can consider new DEP regulations that are supposed to be forthcoming about potassium removal, phosphorus removal, and that type of thing. So it wouldn't hurt to at least apply and start to get the process talked about.
That'd be awesome.
They're very good at providing background and approach to finally getting to whatever regulations might be required. We did apply 3 years ago for the master plan and did get a technical assistance grant that was very useful from MAPC. But it was very much very senior people who had a great deal of experience with a number of towns looking at where our situation is and helping us. In that case, it was with forums for the master plan.
Oh, that's great. You just need us to take a vote to authorize you to do that?
Yeah, it'd just be nice to have a vote on record saying you support the application.
Yeah. So
to be
I will
submitted for the town. Yeah.
Sure. I'll make a motion that the board approves the MAP-C and that we authorize. Yeah, go ahead. You tell me
just
what
the technical assistance application to the MAPC.
Okay. That we approve Pam to apply for the technical assistance application for MAPC.
And of course, if anyone else has any other ideas, they're usually open every year, a few times a year, actually. So,
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Very pressing.
okay.
How about you second it then, Bob?
Second. Yeah, absolutely.
Pam,
I'll
you wanna
do
take a-
it. Yes, I'm sorry. I just Michael Gore,
Aye.
Austin Groner is absent. Robert Romer,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And so you need to tell them specifically what we're looking for when you apply for it. Is it a single, like you said, the stormwater and erosion control, or do you supply them like a list of things? Do you know which works better?
I think basically it's very general. It's only a page and a half long, so
Okay.
you don't have to provide a lot of detail. I think we identify issues and concerns we want addressed, and then in general that we think an erosion control, stormwater management and erosion control bylaw or something similar would be helpful. And then we'd ask them for technical assistance on the best way to manage those issues.
Okay. Great.
Pam, I can dig out the last application if you're interested. I'm not sure it'll help, but
For the master plan, is that what?
yeah, the one for MAPC for the master plan. But as you say, it's a pretty general thing.
Yeah, it's fairly general. I think I'll be all right to do it for this.
Yep.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the land use planning grant, cluster development, and reviewing things for our upcoming meeting next week.
Randall Arendt had requested we provide comments to him probably by Friday prior to the meeting, so he would have some time to prepare additional information when he meets with us next Wednesday, the 17th at 7:00.
Is that going to be in person, Pam?
That meeting is not going to be in person, it's going to be remote.
Okay.
Then after we have he has a general discussion with the board, we'll set dates for the public forum to do the in-person meeting.
Okay. There haven't been very many comments other than Pam's and Mike's on it. I think it'd be worthwhile looking into it. He spent a fair amount of time, a great deal of time, reviewing our bylaw, our subdivision regs rather. And it's worth reviewing.
Okay, and so this Pam sent out the link to this. It was in one of her earlier emails from this week. Draft recommendations for the cluster report. So
Pam, can you resend that?
Yeah, I apologize. I was all over the place
No.
this week with
it.
sick kids
It's easy
and
to
home.
find, but
I
it's
looked
tough
at-
to find the email.
I'll send a link to that. Yes, I'll resend it. And then if we could get all comments in by noon on Friday, that
Okay.
would be great. And then I'll get them out to Randall late afternoon Friday, and he'll have some time to take a look at everything prior to meeting with us next week.
Incidentally, he much earlier had sent me examples of subdivision done and what his approach had resulted in, and I'll be glad to send those around if folks are interested in seeing that. And
Do you want to
also-
send them to me and I can put them in the Google Drive with the link
Yes,
to
I think
the
that's a much
drift?
better way.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And also, that summary of open space and residential development that BSC put together. I think I sent a file of that to you, Pam. If you can file that in the Google Drive as well.
Okay.
It was a 2-pager.
Yep.
Real simple, but was a nice summary of the approach.
Okay, so comments in by Friday at noon, please. I will look again myself. Next item is the town planner report. What do you have for us, Pam?
I just I meet our report on the master plan steering committee. We're actually going to be meeting in person next week on the 18th to review a very preliminary draft of the implementation table. It's going to be a working session. After that, we will, I think the plan is to distribute the results of that implementation matrix to the various town departments and schedule meetings with each individual department head to go over the wants and needs of their department from their point of view and how it relates to recommendations in the implementation matrix. Identify things that maybe we missed, that were done, or that they feel need to be completed. So that was really just an FYI type of thing. With the rain events that occurred, I think it was December 18th, we had about 3 inches of rain. There was significant erosion and runoff impact from the lots on Meadow Road, particularly lot 5. They're numbered oddly. 100 Meadow Road, where the house is at the top of the hill. Slopes on the sides of the driveway eroded out through the runoff and into the neighbor's property. The streets were flooded and it had a pretty significant impact to the neighborhood. We followed up to meet with them to take corrective action. We're still waiting on a report from their engineer. Dillis and Roy met us on site. Bob Romer was there, as well as the DPW director, on things that they could do to rectify the situation.
Was this the lot that was fined a few weeks ago?
They didn't end up being fined, but yes, we
Okay.
had trouble with them in October, actually, I think it was.
Sorry. Time to flat circle. And as part of that, did they make changes, and were those changes just not enough for the amount of rain we had the other day?
Yeah, they did make changes as a result of that last violation. They weren't significant enough. There wasn't any temporary slope stabilizations put in place, and the heavy rains really washed everything away. So that would be something the erosion control bylaw could probably help with if we get one in place. So we went over possibilities to try and stabilize the site a little better until the spring and the grass can grow. So
yeah, have they generally been receptive and responsive when these sorts of things happen?
They have been responsive. I don't think they know what to do in terms of the construction standpoint. So they do have their civil engineer that was on site, though we're still awaiting advice from them on how they're going to correct the lot for the winter months and into the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, the timing is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hydroseeded in December, I think. It's a little late.
Made no difference.
Yeah, it just all washed away with the rain.
But in addition to all the erosion, all the sediments out of the erosion went into the retention areas, filled them up completely, right to the
Isn't there
top.
some sort of like matrix mat you can put down?
Yes, there is, absolutely.
In those cases. Yeah.
And so that was one of the things we discussed, that they need to put something like that that's not vegetation.
And do they have a timeline to correct this?
I'm
sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
They're waiting for we're withholding their occupancy until the issue's corrected.
Okay.
They seem pretty eager to get in the house, the homeowners do, so we're hoping it moves forward quickly.
Built? It's actually finished?
Yes,
everything's done.
Oh, wow, okay.
I guess they live in Westboro and they have 2 kids that are going to Sawyer. So his wife drives up and drops them off. It's really tough.
Yeah, we all want to see it rectified and get them in as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Okay, and then. Okay, so sorry, we're still town planner report.
Just point of information, the MVP grants moving forward. We're meeting with the consultant for a kickoff meeting with the project team for the renovation of the Derby Field project. Rebecca, the Concom agent, is back and she's expected to attend as well, so we're very excited. And the renovations include a more resilient turf finish to the fields to increase usage, possible lighting, a walkway, and an edible garden, as well as educational and directional signage with links to a budding trail system. So we're excited to get that moving forward. We will have the kickoff meeting. We're going to go over details of the scope of work they're going. What's expected is they will form preliminary plans, and then we'll schedule a public session to get community input on the plans and revise them from there. We've already submitted a notice of intent to complete phase 2, which would entail construction of the design plans, also to the MVP program. It's not the actual application, it's just the project idea. And then we wait for the state to provide us with feedback.
So the phase 2, that's full construction. How much was that potentially? What is that up to? Is there a dollar figure for that, or is it just they cover what the things that we want done?
Yeah, we'll have a dollar figure. It is limited. We'll have a dollar figure from the design plans, and some of those design features probably will be based upon the costs associated with the construction.
Do you have like a rough estimate of what it would be?
I think it was 500,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say,
it's
so
pretty significant.
Because we put,
Don't hold
lights,
me to that figure there.
Yeah, no. But like, so we put lights onto the, the baseball field in town a few years back. The Bolton Youth Baseball and Softball organization did, and that cost us about $85,000, just that alone. And that was like very, very, like, with a lot of thrown in free labor and things like that. So if we can get lights there, that would be awesome. So happy to hear that.
That's really it for the planner report. I'll keep you updated on that as they move forward. That project moves forward.
Hey, one quick question, Pam. I know there's been a lot of discussion. I've been in a number of meetings on putting sustainable grass on the town common, as opposed to spending a couple $100K for sprinklers. It might be worthwhile mentioning to Lisa Sheppel that there may be money out there to fund that as well.
The grass?
Yeah, which is not cheap. I mean, it's
Don mentioned that as well, so we'll look into that.
okay. Good.
Yep.
Okay, next item is discussion of annual goals.
It was mentioned that this is a list I found in the computer from previous discussion, I think. There's a lot on there.
Yeah.
So not for this meeting, but I didn't know, maybe at the later meeting in January or the first meeting in February, if we want to go through and prioritize some things, add some things, or get rid of some things, just to have a more doable list. This is probably too much for 1 year for completion.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I think, was probably just brainstorming at some point. Well, I mean, I guess the question is, do we have anything that we're trying to do for this town meeting? Do we have, because we will have nothing definitive from master plan. Do we think that we're going to have some stuff ready to go from Randall's meeting?
Not for this year.
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot to discuss.
Is there any other small stuff that, and I would posit this to anyone on the board, if they have things they're looking for, I know we haven't really done much the past couple of years, and I know a lot of that's to do with master plan and sort of waiting to see what comes out of that, but
Well, it'd be nice if we could do something with respect to runoff and drainage. I don't know, but time is very short now.
That might be a big one for this. I know the selectmen set the draft next month for the warrant articles.
Yeah,
it's usually about right.
I don't think there's any chance. I think we want to think it through very carefully.
Sorry, jumping around a little bit, but Pam, you and I talked, but just to give the rest of the board kind of an overview on the 500 Main Street, the warehouse project, just where that stands.
Yeah, I haven't received additional information. The owner of the property did call me. She requested kind of to view the video from the meeting where the applicant gave a preliminary presentation of the proposed project, because she said it was relayed to her that they didn't really feel like the project was well received by the planning board, and she wanted to view the documents herself. Other than that, I haven't received any additional information or communication from the proposed developer.
And one thing comes to mind, there has been a lot of discussion as a result again of Meadow Road about the stone wall regulations and fines therefore. And I know Todd had looked into other towns' regulations, including Harvard. What would it take to change that regulation? Is that a town meeting?
Change the scenic bylaw regulation?
Yeah, so
The fines associated with
the
it, I
fines
think, is what-
associated with it.
So we need to put it in the zoning bylaw? I think we need to adopt rules, or I don't know, I need to look into it.
I think they're just very, very low.
The fines are there, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, Bob, I think Bob
Okay.
just wants to increase the fines
Oh, okay.
that we have in there. And
Are they the regs? I don't remember seeing them in the. I'll look into it and let you know. That might be a rules and reg public hearing at any time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I think it's something we need to look into.
Okay.
We've, run into 3 of those situations recently.
Okay. Anything else that people want to talk about? Maybe annual goal wise, bylaws or not? Anything else that the board wants to think about going after this year?
Pam, can you put up your list of possible goals into the Google Drive?
Oh, sure.
And I think if people could comment on those and just indicate whether it's, high, medium, or low priority, and then we can have a discussion about that probably the beginning of February.
Okay.
One odd thing
oh.
that came up recently is the Neshoba High School improvements have to submit for site plan, and it goes to the select board, which is kind of different. Has anyone ever talked about changing that?
It goes to the select board, huh?
Yeah.
Is that sort of like how what was it, 480 Main Street? How they had the bylaws written such that, yeah. So basically, I think any bylaw that existed before there was a planning board all called out, ye shall go to the select board. And so there's probably a fair number of those things that are really planning jurisdiction that we should amend. And I mean, it's more of just a pain than anything else, because in that case, select board just says, okay, go talk to the planning board, and it's just kind of a waste of people's time.
Right.
So
I think we have discussed in the past to try to get that site plan review to the planning board, but we never really pushed it. But we have talked about that.
That I spoke to Don, and he didn't seem to think the Board of Selectmen had much interest in keeping that authority. So that might be a good, easy one to fix.
they're too busy rejecting signs for being too large. So.
I don't know, like, I know that David Kane had asked me once in the past year, and I saw on your list there about the split zone, because he had plans to redo that gas station, but can't because of the property, the residential business district lines right through the middle of his property. Maybe too late for this year, I don't know, but like, if we wanted to pare down that the article item that we did like 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, take out all the controversial ones and reissue that. I mean, that might be something easy to do, because most of it was pretty easy. It was like some of Bolton Woods Way had industrial zone, and it was really cleaning up a lot of the edges. But I think the main contentious was Bolton Capital's land, which was like, I think 5 to 10 acres that would become business. I think that was one of the biggest ones. I mean, that was the one really. So if we cleaned that up and put that back out, I think that would be good. I mean, I think it was a very good article, cleaning up a lot of the districts and everything.
You remember what year that was, Eric? Two meetings ago, 3 meetings ago?
What?
Maybe 2?
Yeah,
2 meetings?
at least. It was when we were outside, actually. I think it might have been 2020. So I remember it. Was it when we were outside? I don't know. I think it was.
So it went to town meeting but failed? Is that what?
No, it never went to town meeting.
Oh, it didn't make it.
It failed. It failed because of the Bolton Capital land. Basically, the intent of the article was, if it's a business zone, make sure that the zoning is all business. I mean, if it's currently like a existing business, make sure the zone is all business. If it's currently residential, make sure it's all residential.
Yeah.
But the one contentious point was Bolton Capital had about, I think it was 7 or 8.
So Eric, hold on. So Pam, that's that nice big mansion-y thing. Yeah. Okay. Just Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
They had like 7 or 8 acres of residential behind there. And the concern was that somebody would buy that and tear down the white building that they use for their business now and put in a much bigger development. So that, that trashed the whole article. But I think if we pulled that back out and took that one out and, anything else that we thought was any bit controversial, that would pass
Eric,
pretty
for
good.
the gas station one, so I mean, how big would that increase the footprint?
I mean, it's a very small. The footprint. If you go look, the zone, the lines are. It's a pre-existing non-conforming, essentially.
Well, let me put it this way: what can't he do that he wants to do? Like,
so he wants to tear it down and put a new gas station, but he can't do that because the gas station's on the residential business zone line.
Okay.
The line goes right through the middle of that property, and he can't improve the gas station. He can't. Any major work he does is butts up against the fact that it's half on residential zone land. Because if you look at the business zone in that area, it's basically, they just said so many feet from the highway and so many feet from 117. It's basically a rectangle from the 2 major roads. It's not following property lines at all.
Yeah. But again, what he wanted to build, was it going to be some mammoth thing or just a slightly bigger gas station than what he has now? I mean, that you talk about controversial article issues and.
Well, I mean, it would still have to, pass special permit process. Yeah. But he wanted, what I saw was similar in look to the Berlin one. He tried to, you know, put like arches, like peaks in the roof, not just like a box, but it was definitely going to be like, you know, like
I'm
a
really
sandwich.
talking more about like the number of pumps. So was this the one like?
Oh yeah. It
You
was
know,
gonna.
was someone was like, oh, we're gonna have, you know, a huge back part with diesel pumps in there, and high speed
Yeah, I
diesel
mean-
was the phrase they used that scared the crap out of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did bring that up, but you know,
So that was that guy. Okay, I gotcha.
yeah, that guy, yeah.
So, all right. I mean, you know, I'm not against that, but I think that's going to face scrutiny as well.
Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, and if we think we want to talk, at least, you know, if we want to talk about it more over the next year, that's fine too. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's stupid to have zones that don't follow lot lines, and anywhere we can clean that up would be good.
Yep. Again, it's already January, and like Cam said, the warrant kind of is supposed to be draft next month, so it's kind of tough to do anything at this point. But
okay, if there's nothing else on goals for the year, I mean, I just say everyone should kind of think about if there's things that they feel the planning board should look into for this year.
I actually had one more question, Mike. Sorry.
Go for it. Yeah, no.
I had somebody reach out to me about you know, this the old auction house, Environmental Pools. They're renting. They're going to be renting out different sections to different businesses, different service people. So what they told that person is, and I think Amy Belowitz might have contacted you, Pam, about this as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's her friend who basically she does a staging business, and she wanted to like get a section of the building to store all her stuff, but then the owner, the Environmental Pool, said that, well, they have to have a special permit to allow that. So I guess where I wanted to go with this is, I know with 626, people are coming in and out, and when we permitted 626, we basically said, I think if you go look, we gave like a list of potential businesses, and we said, as long as it's in this, you know, these type of businesses, you don't need to come back before us, you know, just because the business is changing out from one to another. There's no need to come to us as long as, you know, they're these types of businesses. Is that basically what we need to do for environmental pools? Or you know, because
I spoke with the building commissioner about this. I think the issue is that they're dividing the floor plan into different uses. So this staging area, warehouse staging area, wasn't the only other proposed use. They're proposing to add an additional retail area for the sale of blinds and shades and that type of thing. So we felt that the best thing to do was to amend their permit to allow both uses, and then those uses, once the 3 uses are permitted, they can exchange who goes in and out, but they're going from 1 permitted use to 3. So we want to ensure that they have the adequate reviews and approvals issued to allow those uses.
I mean, not to rush the board or anything, but from what I know, that this woman who wants to do this business, she kind of already she already signed an agreement or whatever. From where she is, she needs to be out March 1st. So, I mean, I don't know if we could get that on the agenda to work on that special permit sometime in, you know, February. It doesn't seem like it would be a hard thing to do. It's not like it's going to be, you know, tons of traffic and stuff, but you know, I don't know exactly the exact path we need to take to get to there, but is that something we could add on the agenda in February?
I mean, if it's just modification of the special permit, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
From? I mean,
Yeah, because there's more than just that one use. They wanted to add other uses, and some of them are retail. So we advised the owners of the environmental pool business to come in and amend their special permit, which would require the public hearing.
they are retail, right? Environmental pools, like that is a showroom for people to go into.
Yeah,
right.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, but they're dividing the floor into separate units, so they're
Yeah.
adding additional retail uses.
No, understood. I was
Yeah.
just saying, like, it wasn't the case that we permitted environmental pools, but it wasn't retail, right? It was just like a factory that they were assembling stuff in or whatever. So, I mean, I'm okay with them coming before the board as long as they can submit whatever's required to you, Pam.
Probably ought to do it pretty quickly, though.
Because we'd have to notice that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So before we noticed it, though, that environmental pools or whatever the owners, whatever their name, whatever they go by, they would have to submit an application, and then it kicks off the process, right then.
Yes. They were advised probably over a month ago on that.
Okay. I just wanted to understand because I had the question asked of me, and I think basically we would probably make it similar to the 626 special permit, how we, basically said, as long as it's these types of businesses, you're good to go, right?
Sure. I think it was the division of the plans into additional businesses that was a concern.
Yep. Okay. Just something to be on the radar, I guess.
The last item of business was approval of minutes. Pam, you had July 26th and December 13th. I only saw the December 13th minutes.
I keep July 26th on there to remind myself to get them done.
Okay. So yeah, I read through the 13th minutes. Hopefully everyone else took a look at them. So I will make a motion to approve the planning board minutes from December 13th, 2023.
Second.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Austin Groner. It's absent. James Barr.
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
Eric
Aye.
Nyland.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Pam, what's the just before we wrap up here, what was the update on, I'm forgetting all of my Main Street numbers, the office building that's gonna take part of it down. Are they there? It looks like they're staging and getting ready to go there.
Oh, they started. The parking lot's almost done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that work is for the, well, no, they need to take down part of the building before they do the parking lot, right?
No, they
What do you
did the
mean?
front parking lot first.
Oh, I see.
All the cars are parking in the back, and then they're going in, and once the front parking lot's established, they're going in to demolish the back of the building.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And so they're on track for that? I thought you had said at some point that the apartment complex was kind of on hold. Is that?
Well, it wasn't on hold, they're just delayed. The developer actually came in to pick up his paperwork. He'd never gotten the signed decisions for the 40B approvals, so he came in. They were supposed to close yesterday, so hopefully that went forward.
Okay, thanks.
They're expecting to submit their building applications in the spring, have a pre-construction meeting, and start construction late spring, early June.
Okay, sounds good. If there are no other questions or comments, hearing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We don't roll call for that, do we?
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
See you.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Pam,
you.
Thank you.
Great. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Aye.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks.
talk later. Bye.
Good one.